A law enforcement official reports that the man believed to be Christopher Dorner never came out of that California mountain cabin engulfed in flames. So that's, I think, about the closest thing we've gotten to any kind of official or semi-official word. And obviously law enforcement has been very cautious in what they say to us, for sure. And
well,
in particular, Cindy Bachman at San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department.
And the other thing that statement does is it also takes care of that those reports that were unconfirmed, that there were footprints leading away from that cabin to some sort of stable or some sort of shelter.
Yes, a horse corral.
Sort of actually indicating that perhaps Dorner had gotten away from the cabin when our man on the scene, Carter Evans, had said that place was so thoroughly surrounded that no one could get out of that cabin without being seen. So those things like that report, sort of, particularly in this day and age of social media, the internet, they sort of tend to take on a life of their own. You know, that lingering question, did Dorner or did the person inside this building get away? Well, we know now that no one came out of that building. We do know someone went in, but we also know that no one came out.
No, and we're alluding again to that single gunshot that Carter said he heard once they set off the tear gas canisters. But we've had reports ever since this started, I want to say especially Wednesday evening when Christopher Dorner made himself known to society. We have had so many sightings and reports of him being at locations where he wasn't. So I guess I'm not surprised in terms of different scenarios that people are talking about. But then again, that's why we have to be extra careful in terms of what we report as fact. That's why law enforcement wanted people to stop tweeting, because you could tweet just about whatever you wanted to, and it's not fact-checked.
No,
it's not coming from us, from an official media news source. Yeah. So you can basically say what you want on Twitter. That gets out to thousands, possibly millions of people, and it's incorrect information.
Incorrect information that sort of passes itself off as fact, and people, of course, they start believing it. And that's a fact. We want to get up to Derek Bell. That fire is still hanging in there at this point, Derek.
It sure is. As we come along this side of the fire, we're kind of making racetrack patterns up here, back and forth from the northwest to the southeast. And as we get on kind of on this side, it appears that we've got some of those emergency equipment vehicles that are in the area right now, but it does not look like there is a firefighting effort going on right now. What is burning apparently is they're just letting it burn out right now. We've got to believe that there's quite a number of vehicles and personnel that are on the scene right there. However, because of the distance they're keeping us back, we're just unable to see that or to make any sort of assessment about that. Of course, they did that because they were worried that perhaps Christopher Dorner had access to something that could see our signal, and that would give a tactical disadvantage to the officers on the ground. But as you can see in the distance, that structure that they believe he was last seen in is now fully involved and is now burning to the ground. Overhead, Derek Bell at the controls. Back down to you in the studio.
All right, thank you, Derek. Our Greg Mills is on the ground in Big Bear, and we're going to go to him now. We understand, Greg, that you have new information to give us.
I certainly do, Pat, about how this all started today. Told by the Sheriff's Department that two women were going in to clean the cabin on Clubview, the 1200 block, and I can be more specific, 1236 or beyond, because that's where the police tape begins. So 1236 or beyond on Clubview. Two women going in around noon, I guess, to clean the cabin, and they found Dorner inside the cabin. And he then used zip ties to tie them up. He stole their car and drove off, got into an accident here in Big Bear, and then at that point he carjacked the truck that he then took, and you've seen all day, in Angeles Oaks. So it started that way. Those two women apparently are okay. We didn't get any update on their condition, but they have been here all afternoon at the sheriff's headquarters in Big Bear being interviewed. And we're understanding, too, that there could be a news conference later here today. They're waiting for everything really to wrap up in Angeles Oaks, but the two women that were victims this morning are here and being interviewed. And, again, we could be hearing from them and possibly Sheriff what happened here in Big Bear a little bit later on.
Well, Greg, you have to be shaking your head because this is something you talked about earlier this afternoon when we found out that the home was located on the 1200 block of Clubview. For people who are just joining us during this 5 o'clock hour here on CBS 2 and KCAL 9, tell the folks at home where you've been every night, where Soraya's been, where's Juan been, where these news conferences have taken place, and where that home on the 1200 block of Clubview is located.
We've been at 1200 block of Clubview. That's exactly where all the live shots you saw last Thursday, Friday, Saturday were held. That's where the command post was. So sheriff's deputies, the sheriff himself was there talking about Dorner and what was going on. And Paul and Pat, this house overlooks that and is less than 50 yards away from where all that was happening. And they went door to door. We were told 400 houses, and that neighborhood is where they were really focused because it's about a mile, 2 miles at most from the forest road where Dorner's truck was found. And so if he was holed up there this entire time, he was able to just watch out the windows and see everything unfold. Every media outlet in Los Angeles was there, and also some nationally too, as well as sheriff's updates about every 3 hours. And he could see them talking about him, if he was there indeed the whole time, which it certainly sounds like he was, if these two cleaning ladies happened upon him when they went in to clean the house today.
Yeah, we do know that the sheriff's deputies were conducting searches of properties in that area. If there were people at home, they would simply knock on the door. If they saw a place was occupied, they would speak to them. They'd conduct a search of that property, and then they would put a piece of tape out to indicate to others that that home had been searched. Now, if they came upon a rental property or a property that was shut down for the winter, perhaps, they treated it differently. I think if this is accurate, Greg, they would walk up and look for signs of a forced entry. If they did not see that, then they would go ahead and tag that as well. I remember there was one case where there was signs of a forced entry, but they determined that had happened some time ago. Was that accurate about how they conducted the search?
That is exactly it, Paul. One other thing about this house, too, is that the owners were not here. And, in fact, they didn't come up this past weekend because of what was going on in Big Bear. Out of concern for their own safety, they just stayed wherever their primary residence is, didn't come up to their Big Bear home, and probably a good thing that they didn't.
Well, say.
Well, this is, again, twists and turns. We do want, yes, indeed, Greg. We want to report what Carter Evans actually said earlier, a while ago, in fact, that before this house went up in flames, or this cabin went up in flames, after they threw in the tear gas, they did hear a report of a single gunshot. So this is just being confirmed by a law enforcement official. This confirms what our Carter Evans spoke about earlier in the broadcast. We're going to go back to Juan Fernandez in Big Bear, who can tell us maybe of more activity or what he's seeing now. Juan?
Well, Pat, the night is getting a little darker here and also a little colder, so hopefully things are just going to start wrapping up here a little bit sooner. Take a look just past us here. You can see some equipment coming down the road here. This is Highway 38 and Jenks Lake Road. This is where the last of the checkpoints had been set up as soon as Dorner was spotted in this area here. And it looks like it's a Winnebago, actually, that's being or maybe even a sheriff's, I can't really tell from this distance. Yep, it looks like it's a sheriff's command post type of vehicle setting up here at this location right now. It could be that this is now going to start going into the investigation stage. Again, this is just based on what we're seeing out here. We haven't seen a lot of emergency equipment come through here. We haven't seen a lot of extra cars come through here at this point. So behind us here, we still have the CHP still with the rifle at the ready. We still see the same situation down a little further down the road. So things right now on the calm side, and it really is amazing. I heard you talking about those cabins earlier just a few minutes ago. They were so focused on those cabins close to Big Bear City that, according to the folks I've spoke to out here in the San Bernardino National Forest, there are many more cabins as well. So obviously they couldn't have made it to this area in this time of searching. So again, quite a situation out here. We are continuing to look. Pretty calm situation out here, waiting to see what the information coming out is going to be. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Juan. We are going to get further information, we hope, from LAPD, who has been monitoring this situation very closely. There we can see Antonio Villaraigosa, our mayor, with Lieutenant Andy Nyman apparently approaching the podium along with Commander Andy